Bafundi, Bafundi one, we're altering this yellow chiffon dress and we're just taking it on the side. It's very simple. So of course, step one is to figure out what exactly is going on. And it looks like the zip is placed just on the outside of this and that the zip self has this binding. So we should just be able to take that off and actually just move the zip a little bit this way to take it in. On the other side, a little bit more complicated. You can see this is done in one, this underlining piece. So we have to separate, alter each side, rejoin. And then same for this waistband section. That looks like it's one section. And then this is done in a different section. And this piece here is just put on at the top of all the other layers. So we're going to have to unpick this, take this in, join this back. So of course, step one, unpicking. And there's nothing really I can say other than Tata Mandla. This is the road that you have to walk in this industry. You're just going to have to unpick. Something very delicate like this, of course, you really have to bring your skills. And I will always unpick really one or two stitches at a time, very carefully going along to see what is stitch and what is fabric. So something like this, if you get a run on this, there's really nothing you can do about it. So got to make sure you're just being cautious, going slow, and just really unpicking one or two stitches at a time. So let me go ahead and do all of the unpicking. So this fin is coming off, then I'm just going to separate here, figure out what's going on in there. I probably have to get in underneath this lining. Something like here, this part of the lining, we can just really fold in. There's no need to do that alteration. But yeah, we'll see as we go what exactly we're going to do. So let me unpick all of that and see where we are. There, all the unpicking is done. Let's see. Here we are. Okay, so zip is out. Let's get this all back together. Zip is out. And now, we'll just be taking a little bit in there. And then, from there, obviously, all of that's just going to be turned. So for now, I'm just going to iron this flat. This side is a more complicated side. Or you see I haven't actually finished unpicking there. I'm going to do that in 1 second. You see there's a lot of overlocking, a lot of stories here. And one thing I noticed is that there's this elastic here. So of course here I just took it off, but here, I don't want to now, when I'm doing the alteration here, be turning on that elastic. So just unpicked it a little bit and I'll just lock it in place, once I get on the inside there. So, of course, step number one, check yourself before you press record. So let me unpick this as well. And then I'll just go and give everything an iron so that it's nice and easy to work on. Right, okay, ironing done. Of course, you can't iron too much because crease and wrinkle is the whole point of this dress. Oh, now I've even lost where I am. Let's figure this out. Okay, so this upper portion, here, sure, I'm in two minds. One says that I should actually just open this portion up so it's easy to get in here. The other says I should get in here and do it like that. Let's see, can it be done without racking up my therapy bill? Okay, so this whole portion, top to the waist, is coming in 1.5 centimeters. So I'm going to start by pinning that. And this portion isn't too complicated. I can't really lie it flat, so that's what's bugging me, but I think at the machine I'll be able to just sort of twist and turn this around as I go. Yeah, and this top portion isn't so complicated. Let's get a bit of this out the way. The other option would, of course, be to just open up this lining, stitch the inside, and then the lining we can kind of just fold back, or I could even stitch and overlock it and leave that overlock seam visible on the inside. But let's try and do it all so that it folds back to how it was originally. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to see on the machine how much I swear at Benjamin of the past. And I think we'll cope. Yeah, 1.5 here is going to be net, but Sizobona. Because that's all that portion. I can't really do the rest one time. This is the inside lining. I'm just going to fold that. Could stitch it, but I'm not going to. Okay, this portion is then the sort of waistband section. Just putting some pins to keep it reasonably straight. And again, this is 1.5, the whole waistband. 1.5 from the stitch line, you will. Okay, and this is the bottom part of the dress. Now this, is it French seamed? Or, yeah, it's a French seam. But of course, we're just going to redo the one portion. So we're going from 1.5 here where it connects to the midsection. I'm going 15 centimeters down, 0. So it's about here somewhere. About there. And this should be reasonably straight. I'm actually just going to do this with my eyes. Don't judge me too much. And again, just a couple pins. Keeping this reasonably in place. We'll join up right over there. I should actually just unpick a smidgen more. This is tough to now see what I'm unpicking because those stitches are right on top of each other, but it's basically that extra little flouncy, I know there is a name for it, this flouncy flappy thing. A little bit lower so that I can more easily here get back onto the original seam line. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's that side. Obviously, here at the top, I'm doing now the lining portion by pulling it through that little gap. So we'll have to come back and do the dress portion. No big deal. Okay, interesting question. Here, we're going to be doing our zip. And of course, the zip, if we place it there, was basically on the edge, a little bit over the edge. So if we draw out our new stitch line. I'm going to draw it from the edge, 1.5. 1.5 all the way down over this waist section, 1.5, 1.5. And then at 15 centimeters, we get back to 0. So now here again, that little flouncy piece, I'm just going to pin that in place so that it doesn't end up getting caught randomly in the zip where I don't want it to. Okay, so 15 centimeters is here. It's basically dead on this little portion here. I really don't think I'm going to move any of that. But let's do this as straight as possible. Ooh, and I think again I'm going to come by eye. I mean by hand and just kind of shape that in as shape-alicious as I can. Okay. So now this zip is going to be sitting like so. Yeah, we're moving it from just over there. So if I put it over that mark, it'll be 1.5 centimeters from where the original stitch line was. Okay, so start up here and put it just over the mark. I don't know if I'm really brave enough to stitch it one time. Let's see if I can handle it. As you see, this is like a very round little portion there, but also have to kind of keep it, because this, it's very difficult to get an exact measurement on this kind of thing because it's so frilly and scrunchy. But basically just putting the zip into its new spot. And yeah, I'm gonna try and stitch this one time. Now here they have a lock on this. Let's actually open that because that will mean I can stitch a little closer to the edge. So this method of doing the invisible zip, I learned on YouTube. A student of mine sent it to me, and it is phenomenal. Before this, I had a whole other chacharacha method that did work, but it wasn't as great as this method I'm about to show you. So we're just placing it in its new position. And then at some point, it kind of just gets to the edge of the seam where it was. Yeah, and I'm gonna leave it right there. Now I can actually open this just a little bit. How much is that backstitch? Okay, it goes all the way to there. Let's see, I'm actually gonna open this portion because it's just gonna allow everything to be a little bit smoother. We've got a backstitch going from there, so I'm just going to allow that to just a little bit smoother. And then, okay, so there's where the stitching ends. So I'm going to then end it over there. And you can't really stitch an invisible zip, you're going to now lift this portion and stitch right in there. Of course, you can't do that right by the slider. So you're just going to go as far as you can and then off like that. So that is that. Let's go ahead and stitch this. There we are. First round of stitching has been done. Right, so for this zip, I can now just look, I can either close it, well, I will need to close it at any point, and just look along here and make sure between the center of the zip and the fabric, there's no really big gap. You do need a bit of a gap because the slider must still go. You also don't want it to be wavy. You want it to be as straight as possible. Now, with this closed, I can mark where the waistband is going to be. So that when I pin the other side, I can pin it exactly. This side now I can fold over and just stitch that there. This is how the original was done. So happy for that because this is easy peasy. And then of course, my challenge will be to pin this side in exactly the right spot. Oh yeah, and obviously I must mark the alterations. Almost forgot about that. Okay, so let's see, we're going 1.5 from the edge. And that's going to be where the zip like puts kind of its edge. And then here, 15 centimeters. Ends over here. So again, kind of just with my eyes, going to. Okay, so now on the back of this, you can see that disaster where all the lining is caught up absolutely terribly, and that's because I did not pin correctly. Don't judge me, I am just leaving that there because it's such a loose dress, it's not going to kill anyone. But this time I have to make sure that the lining is pinned and it's not going to just flip underneath there where I'm sewing. At least, there the zip gets kind of turned back. What's going on here? So you're not going to see it, and you are just going to valam lomo. Okay. So zip, side number 2. So let's open this up all the way. Side number 2, we have our marks. All right, it's more or less perfect. And then all the way to the top. Now you see this one is actually, because of the angle of this body, it's going to be, I don't know if I want to fold that in there. That is already understitched. I could squeeze this down a little bit. Yeah, that'll be fine. So it's not going to be 1,000% equal. No, they'll just pop right back out. And I'm not going to be fussed about that. Maybe I'll just do a slight gather. See if the machine will just eat that up. Because of course there that seam is not straight. It's kind of at an angle from the back to the front. And at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do with alterations. You can't really rework the entire dress or garment. All right, and now we should get, to the same point, leaving this little puller tab towards the bottom. Okay, I think that is good. All right. Now what I'm going to do is just first come here and just lock that in place and then do the rest. Stitch that. On the other side, let's see, where are we? Here it is. Now I need to squeeze this through this little gap. And stitch this portion. Of course, the gap is now a little bit smaller. Nonetheless, I think we will still manage to stitch 1.5 centimeters. I'm going to kind of lock that there. Okay. And let's measure out 1.5. All right, looks like that is going to go off without a hitch. Okay, and then we have this portion, which is now basically done. Let's just see, where is it? Okay, so that's underneath here. Okay, so this portion, we're now waiting to finish there. This portion, we can get in underneath here. We should just stitch back. So I'm going to flip this smocked piece to the back, or just go straight with the smocked piece because that's the toughest one. I don't want to fold it back on itself. And then this portion is, it's not fitting exactly, but with so much gather, I'm just going to stitch that. And then this I'll just pull a little bit and stitch that there. Yeah, this portion will close in a minute. Okay, let's do all of that. So it's stitching this top portion that we pulled out through that little tiny hole, wherever on earth that is, and then stitching the other side of the zip and stitching this portion of the zip over the garment like that. So let's get the easy stuff out the way. Find myself again. All right, so on this underarm, we've now done inside and outside. So now I want to press towards. Let's see, which side is this? Is the front. So this ruches, no. Let's see. That's the back. Yeah, this is the front. Rouges on the back. So we'll push this towards the back, the garment portion, and the lining will push towards the front. And I guess we can get into this little tiny hole and stitch that. Let's see. Can I get enough of this through this tiny hole? Yeah, look at that. The understitch, don't even try. Sure, can I get this? I need to get through this hole. There it is. Okay, and I need to get enough of it through the hole. Okay, now I'm completely turned around. I don't know which way is which. I'm just going to push one seam allowance one side, the other seam allowance the other side, and call it a day. And then just join that. The understitch, you'll see I do that by hand. There's absolutely no chance I'm going to be fiddling around trying to do that by machine. And do I have enough of the understitch unpicked? Yes, on that side. On this side, yes. Okay, so yeah, I'll just be joining that underarm there. Yeah, this portion is now joined here. What I do need to do, let's maybe turn this around, is put back this flappy flap. So let's see, this just stitches directly onto the onto this French seam here. Let's just neaten this up a little bit. Now I am being a bit fast and loose with the ironing because, like I said, you can't actually iron this. It would be a disaster. Sure. Let's see. Sometimes it's true what people say. It's easier to just redo this entire dress from the beginning. Struggle with all these finicky alterations. But, for fashion, you do anything. You see, this portion is getting a little bit bubbly here just because of how they're joined there. I'm just going to, at the end of the day, stitch it flat. Just like that. Stitch that in there. All right. Okay, so those are going to be stitched. Here, it's kind of moment of truth. This method you can't really check before it's done. What we need to do is scooch this little tab through the hole, which is easier if you leave a long portion of the zip undone. I'm actually not sure if there we go. Yeah, and then you just do it in one. There we go. Yeah, and that is matching up very nicely. Now, what the original guys did, which I will replicate, is they actually did a top stitch. Now, my stitching is a little bit bright. I don't know. Can we risk not top stitching that? I feel so. I'll just give it an iron, call it a day. I think here I'm just going to stitch that by hand there and there, just to kind of keep that open there and there. Of course, this portion I'm going to fold under. Down here at the bottom, I don't really feel I need to do anything. That looks totally fine. Yeah, fashion, baby. Okay, so let's see. Can I do that by machine? No, that's going to be by hand. Stitch, 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 stitch. Let me somewhere do that now. And then I'll go to the machine, stitch that under. And I think I'll also just stitch that. They did that by machine. They had a stitch there. But my yellow is a bit bright. It's more to the gold side than this very pale yellow. So I'm going to do it by hand on the reverse. Then you won't see so much. But yeah, we are reaching the end, slowly but surely. Right, Bafundi, we are basically done. I ended up one time just closing that as well. So that's all now closed. You see this portion of the lining, I just really like squeezed in there because it's so soft. So of course I'm going to give this all an iron. And here, this understitch here, I'm just going to do that quickly by hand and then finish off closing that because I have to stitch that portion. So I'm going to finish that off by hand. And then, I'm just going to give a quick iron and definitely we're going to together check it on the mannequin. So if you're ever wondering if you want to buy a mannequin and is it really worth the price, the answer is yes. I feel it always really helps to just look at something on the form. Now, these things are made in like mass factories. You can see it's not like 1,000% symmetrical there, but we're just going to carry on from there. Now here on the zip side, you can see, this kind of fold ended up catching into the zip just because of how it was, but that's not a drama. And this I'm totally happy with. You can see here there's a little bit more of the zip showing. This is actually more because it's tight on this mannequin for this girl. If we pull that a little bit, you see it kind of goes in a bit. And also, you do need enough space for the slider. So that's going to be totally fine. And at the end of the day, what we're really looking for is like funny bumps and lumps. And this is all falling nice and smooth like that. And like this fabric is such a drama to work with because you really can't iron it flat because that's like not what the garment is about. And then if we look at this side, looking okay, you can see this is kind of gaping out like that. I'm just going to iron the living daylights out of that. Keep it up there. But of course, the more you iron, the more it's going to end up bagging out like this. So at the end of the day, what we have to do is kind of scoop it like this and iron it up like that so that we keep that shape going there. And no funny like kinks or bubbles anywhere. You can see our center here or our seam here went completely awry, but as long as there's no like funny bubbles somewhere, as long as it's going to sit nice on the body. So like this portion, I'm going to really pull like that and just iron it up like that. So that's going to be nice and straight. And that is going to be that. Yeah, Bafundi, I hope this helped. I hope this gives you some inspiration with some fashion. And I will see you again soon.